we've got to look at ourselves from an Indian context. We're a community of people that loves watching Bollywood movies, and we love watching, Tom Cruise action flicks.
But we obviously want to bring the artists that do well in India and the sound that is appreciated by Indians. And then obviously there's some.
In fact, this year when I'm walking through the crowds, I'm looking at so many women in the audience that I'm like, hey, if any guy tries to misbehave over here.
Supersonic has really been a platform of discovery of some great sounds and great artists, right? Which
Hello, everybody. Nikhil and Gaurav, thank you so much for joining us today. It is our absolute pleasure to be talking to you, and I'm really excited to get to know about everything that goes into, putting together India's favorite and most popular music festival, Vh1 Supersonic. So first things first, I would like to understand how the whole idea of Vh1 Supersonic was ever conceived and how has it evolved over the years? I'd like to hear from both of you on this.
Back in 2013, I had an acrimonious exit from the festival that I used to work with previously. And I was planning on setting up my own music festival. And I had a conversation with the team at Viacom 18. The live division of Viacom 18 had just been set up. And in our conversation with the head of the business at that point in time, we realized that they were also planning on doing an electronic music festival as part of their live bouquet of events that they were planning on doing. So we just put both our ideas together and VH1 Supersonic was born. And I think it was a fantastic partnership because up until that point in time, I'd been working with MTV for almost 15 years. So it almost felt like I was working with family. The Viacom team and the entire operational system was very sort of easy for me to segue into and work with. And I think it was a great relationship right from the get-go.
Awesome. Amazing. And Gaurav, would you like to add?
So I joined the Viacom business only 3.5 years ago. So by then we had already finished 6 Supersonics. So I joined here in 2019 in September. So 2020 was my first Supersonic. I was just kind of learning the ropes from all the people that were already in the business and Nikhil, of course. And and then we went into COVID. So actually this is my first Supersonic.
Oh, wow. Then I must ask you, how was your experience being there physically and experiencing the whole vibe?
So it's been fantastic, actually, right from, this year we started planning in April. Right from the planning stage, I think a lot of new things for me to learn also. But overall, I think the experience from what we've put together from both a business point of view and a consumer point of view, I am extremely happy with it. As usual, we have grown from just an electronic music festival to a multi-genre music festival. We also kind of added a lifestyle component in 2020, where we launched something called Super Street, which was our fashion and art project within Supersonic. And we always had Super Flea. We just grew that significantly this year. And I think in terms of experience and response, it's been great.
Awesome. So Nikhil, in your own words, what do you think sets this music festival apart from any other festival across the globe, leave alone India? Like, what do you think sets VH1 Supersonic apart?
Well, to put it in one word, I think is vibe. But to encapsulate that, to expand on that a little bit, we've got to look at ourselves from an Indian context. We're a community of people that loves watching Bollywood movies, and we love watching, Tom Cruise action flicks. We love eating our pani puri and bhel puri, and at the same time, we love our pasta. We love our cosmopolitans, and we also love our kheer and lassi. So we're a very interesting mix of people as a culture. And I think VH1 Supersonic is one of those festivals that sort of ticks all those boxes for various people from various backgrounds and interests. We're not just one-dimensional, not only from the music point of view, but also from the F&B perspective, from the content creation perspective. We managed to attract a very wide range of interest and experience seekers. And I think we deliver for all of them, which is interesting because we keep adding on various layers. There's a vision that I've always had for Supersonic from the get-go, and it was never meant to be only an electronic music festival. It was always meant to be not just multi-genre, but multidisciplinary as well. We do intend to, at some point in time, bring in spoken word, other art forms like sculpture, painting, digital art, short films. All of these are in the planning stages. And when the time is right, then these elements will start to come in. But right now, the focus is largely on music, on building that community, on bringing that community together and creating a community experience. Because Vh1 Supersonic is not just about the experience. It's also about driving culture and bringing communities together. And I think that's going to be our focus now for the next few years. And that's how we'll go forward.
Wow, that's amazing. I think it's going to get even more better after you add all these elements that you just spoke about. So Gaurav, being the business head at Viacom 18 and considering that businesses are mostly driven by data available, what are the kinds of data that goes into decision making, into this music festival?
Yeah, so there are multiple data touch points that we refer to, right? So from an artist curation point of view, the team over here, along with Nikhil, looks at data across music platforms, across social media trends, across YouTube, across Google, to kind of see, because there are so many artists that are doing so well across the world, but we obviously want to bring the artists that do well in India and the sound that is appreciated by Indians, and then obviously there's some amount of discovery that we put into the festival. So I think that's a big point in terms of data. The other thing is that we have data of our past consumers who have been attending Supersonic. We have to say we have a very good loyal fan base. A lot of our customers come back again and again every year. And I think that data kinds of tells us, along with the music, what kind of experiences and vibe we should be creating year on year. So the data that comes through ticketing, the data that comes through market research, and the data that comes through our loyal fan base, along with the music platforms. We put all the data together before we actually say, hey, this is what the product will look like this year.
Awesome. That's interesting. So having come back in person after the pandemic, what are some of the changes you noticed at the festival, both of you?
Yeah, I think more than anything else, people were just happy to be back. Even though we technically say that we were away, we've been away for 2 years. We missed 2 editions of Supersonic, but it's actually been 3 years since we last saw people on that field, and the artists came to that place, and we all sort of gathered together. So the one thing that we noticed most of all was just the enthusiasm of people in Pune to just get back on the field. And I think that came out in all the stories that we saw on social media, all the communication that we had from the artists and even from the crew, that there was just this sense of relief to be back there on the field. And we also saw that, of course, music trends have changed a little bit. They change ever so often, but it's 3 years since we last programmed Supersonic. So we were sort of cognizant of that fact that trends are changing. And we took one bold step this year, which was to include Afrobeat. We had an artist called CK who played at the festival. And our prediction as Vh1 Supersonic is that by the same time next year, pretty much every festival in India will have Afrobeat in it. It's one of those trends that we spotted early, and we spotted trends early many times in the past, techno being one of them. And that was one big change at Supersonic.
Awesome. That's amazing. Talking about trends, I think over the pandemic, a lot of independent artists emerged, and, India became, everybody, there were a lot of, new independent artists, indie artists in India. So I think, and I think you guys also featured quite a lot of independent bands this year. And it was amazing. The lineup was really amazing.
Well, that's another thing that we did early. We crossed that bridge in
exactly.
In Gaurav was a part of that decision when we brought Pratik Kuhad and Divine to play at Supersonic for the first time. And up until then, people had the impression that we're largely an English-speaking music festival. But Gaurav's point was that, like I said, people in India will listen to Divine just as much as they will listen to Eminem. They will listen to Pratik Kuhad as much as they will listen to Coldplay. So we didn't see any need to differentiate a festival based on language. I think cultural taste, driving culture, bringing communities together. Those are differentiators for Vh1 Supersonic and not necessarily language.
That's
So
great. That's amazing.
along with that, I'd just like to add, because you asked me about data and stuff. If you see, some of
Yeah.
our headliners are actually social media stars, right? So the trend of consumption of music, right? What we found is also changing. Over the
Yeah.
pandemic, people were discovering music on platforms more than just the music platforms, right? So
Yeah.
whether it's a CK or an Anne Marie or a Tiger, all of them actually are social media stars in their own space as well. And that also went into saying, hey, the trend of discovery of music is changing, so why not bring the stars that started the trend of this discovery?
All right. So why Pune? What makes Pune an ideal location for VH1 Supersonic?
So Pune for us, in terms of a city, it's an urban city, and we're seeing a large amount of our consumers, right, being in Pune. It's a big college market. It's a big university market. It's also a big startup and tech market, right? Like Nikhil mentioned, it's also extremely close to Bombay, and you still get to travel for a festival with your friends, your colleagues, your family to another city, but you're still not too far away from a city. So I think these are the check boxes that some of the check boxes. Nikhil will elaborate on uh, some more of them.
There's two cities that have very large student populations, and the student population tends to be the population that goes out and wants to discover new music or go to a music festival. Pune and Bangalore are the two main centers for student populations, the way I've described it. And I think for people who travel to Pune as well, as opposed to traveling to other places across India, it's far lighter on the pocket. Accommodation is cheaper, traveling in taxis is cheaper, there's multiple options for food and restaurants. It just works out better both for the consumer and for us as festival promoters as well. The ease of doing business in Pune is also significantly better than in some of the other markets that we've experimented with. So, Pune, I keep switching between the two of them. I think ticks a lot of boxes and is an ideal location for doing a music festival like ours. And I think VH1 as a channel partner and as the brand that leads VH1 Supersonic has also data that the consumption of the music that we promote at the festival is pretty high in Pune as well. So win-win for everyone.
Perfect. Awesome. So could you take us through the process of selecting the lineup? Is there a certain checkpoints that you go through, or how is it that you select the artists that you'd like to perform?
Well, curating a festival involves 3 points, in my opinion. Number one, you need to deliver to fans what they love and what they'll want to come out to listen to and what they'll enjoy. Number two, you need to try and make the festival future-proof, which means you need to identify trends that are coming up and program them into the festival so that the transition into future trends and future genres is more or less seamless. It's what we did with techno in 2015, and techno now is the biggest genre of music, arguably, across the world. And it's what we also did with hip hop when we brought Macklemore into the scene in, I think, 2018. It's what we've done this year with CK and Afrobeat. So that's part of making the festival future-proof. And we think Afrobeat is going to be a significant genre and a player in the music industry and the scene in India going forward. And the third point is that you've got to try and wow people with acts that they would love, but they've never heard about. So there are these three elements that go into programming a festival. And it's not just a year-on-year sort of process. Sometimes you will follow an artist for several years before you decide that the time is right to bring them into the festival. And the example over there is the person who headlined Supersonic last time around was an artist called Illenium. I've been tracking him for about 5 years and watching his profile grow across the years. And Illenium was actually offered to us as a support artist for Marshmello the previous year. And we said no to it because I felt that the time wasn't right to bring Illenium into India as yet. And I knew that if he waited just a little more time, he would actually emerge as a bona fide headliner. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
It's a long
really
process.
amazing.
It's not a, hey, who's hot this week? Let's book them.
But that's good. That adds on to the credibility of, the festival. So you do your research and you just don't go with the trend. I mean, just don't go with, like, most of the time it's like, almost all the music festivals have the same acts performing year after year. So I have personally noticed that you guys pay key, that's why I wanted to know what is the process that goes into putting together the lineup.
No,
Gaurav, would you like to
and
add?
there's consensus as well. Yeah, it's not just one person's decision. There's a
Yeah,
team of people. Gaurav
absolutely.
joins us in those meetings as well. Everybody has an opinion and a point of view. Sometimes a name gets thrown up that other people may not have heard of, and then we'll get into the internet and we'll do some research on what this artist has been doing, what the trends have been, who the artist has performed with, what kind of a fan base they have in India, how that fan base has evolved, how have they communicated with their fan base over time. Do we see fans responding to that artist if we announce that artist on our lineup? So all of these sort of discussions happen over time before we finally decide that this is the artist that we're going to go after.
Amazing. That's great.
And
Gaurav,
also,
would you like to add?
as part of the research, we also talk to our loyal fan base. So we do these small focus groups where we are calling up our fan base saying, hey, have you heard of this artist? What do you think of the sound? So besides all the other work that goes in, from social media listening to Google Trends to music platform trends to what's new, what fits in the supersonic ethos of our music, right? There's this one other element, which is the fans, right? Because why are we doing this? We're doing this to entertain our fans. So we talk to them, right? We take them in confidence, saying, hey, these are the kind. A lot of times, the team, Nikhil included, come up with artists who honestly I've never heard of, right? And then we throw it out to the fans and they're like, hey, the music is really great, and I think Supersonic has really been a platform of discovery of some great sounds and great artists, right? Which which I don't see many other festivals doing, right? In terms of discovery, right? So sure, you have to have, the popular names, the commercial names, but the ethos for us still stands on that discoverability of artists and sounds. And I think we'll continue to stay true to that.
Yeah, that's great. That's absolutely true that you guys have fresh and new artists year after year. So Gaurav, I'd like to know what are some of the steps you take to ensure that the festival is inclusive for both the artists and also the festival goers.
So whenever we are booking an artist, right, the booking is done pretty much after dialogues with the artists, right? So we're taking an opinion, we're taking ideas from them, because obviously they are the people, they are the largest portion of our product, right? We're talking to them, making sure that what is it that they look at while coming to play at Supersonic. Now, this could be a headliner, this could be a new artist that we are giving an opportunity on our platform, right? But we talk to everyone and then we say, hey, okay, this is what we feel works from your repertoire or from your upcoming repertoire, and which is what should be brought in to from your music standpoint. From the consumers, like I said, we are constantly engaging with our loyal fan base, right? And every time we introduce something like like in 2020, we introduced fashion and art, right? We introduced it. We spoke to the people who came there. We spoke to the people after. They loved the experience. So actually, from about 40 designers and artists in 2020, we actually went to 100 plus this year. Purely from the feedback coming from the consumers saying, hey, we came to the festival, obviously for the music and the kind of curation that you guys bring to the table. But, for 8 hours over there, I got so many more things to do experientially and shop some great stuff, right?
Well,
Awesome.
Sneha, one of the things that's been a key focus area for Supersonic from 2013 is to make the festival itself a safe space for everyone. When I left my previous festival, I could see very clearly trends emerging that the festival was becoming very male / testosterone / bad behavior oriented. And that was of great concern to me. I was getting feedback from friends that they were dancing with their girlfriends like this, and their girlfriends were still getting touched and groped by people around them. So right from the get-go in 2013, we made sure that we had a very strong focus towards making the festival feel safe for everyone. And I'm not just talking about girls, guys, for people of different orientations, backgrounds, everybody. And we've had strong messaging and elements in the festival that sort of emphasize that point to say this is a safe space. We encourage the community to get involved and to not tolerate bad behavior from anyone. So one of the messages that the MCs will put out from stage is, if you see something, say something. If you see somebody misbehaving with somebody else, say something. Don't say it's not my problem, right? If you see somebody who looks like they're dehydrated or exhausted, they're sitting down on the ground, go and ask them, do they need help? We've got staff all around, and there's always someone who'll be there in a matter of minutes. But more often than not, if somebody's in trouble or if somebody's being treated badly, there's going to be another fan right next to them who can get involved. And we've seen that translate into almost no bad behavior across the festival. In fact, this year, when I'm walking through the crowds, I'm looking at so many women in the audience that I'm like, hey, if any guy tries to misbehave over here, forget the guys. The women are going to turn on him, and that's not going to be pretty. There were just so many girls there. And it's so nice as a festival promoter to see that balance of guys and girls, and everybody there have a good time. I don't see any guys, and I'm through the festival. Gaurav's through the festival all the time. We're constantly crisscrossing the festival. We never see any guys trying to kind of chat up a girl who doesn't want to be chatted up to, or trying to be fresh with someone. Everybody's there for a great experience and to make new memories and to enjoy the music. It's beautiful to see the vibe at Supersonic, which is why I started off this interview by saying our vibe is what defines us. Our vibe is what sets us apart from so many other festivals.
Absolutely. And that's something I have personally heard. I unfortunately have not been there personally, but someone from our team always attends, and I think we have always heard that the vibe is great, and it's a very fashionable music festival, because we pretty much go to all the music festivals. But yeah, I think definitely I'm going to be there next year to witness it in person. So talking about artists, I would like to know if there is a pre-decided ratio between the Indian and international arts at the festival.
No, I don't think so at all.
Music is something that you cannot create reservation around. And I can't emphasize that point strongly enough. You just absolutely cannot. And I personally, I stand very strongly for more representation of different genders in the music industry. My wife is a pioneer in the music scene as well, but she'll be the first person to tell you that booking an artist based on their ethnicity, their nationality, their gender, their sexual orientation is the worst thing you can do. It's almost like saying, oh, you're not good enough to compete and to kind of be there with everybody else. So you have to create a separate category for you to make you a part of the festival. That's the worst thing you can do, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, that's well said. Yeah. So, Nikhil, I would like to know, you're a music producer yourself. How do you stay up to date with like the current trends in electronic dance music, and how does it influence your role in organizing Vh1 Supersonic?
Well, forget
electronic dance music, but music in general. Yeah.
Music in general. One of the good things about what I like to do is I like to listen to a lot of radio. And while listening to radio, I hear a lot of new music. And I don't just mean radio in the city where I live in, but online radio. I get to listen to a lot of artists, and I get to spot trends over time, because it's not like I listen to radio for a week and then you make a decision based on what you hear for a week. I listen to radio a lot.
Yeah.
Secondly, I also DJ professionally. So I get to have conversations, not just play out the music that I play, but I get to have conversations with DJs in different clubs that I go to understand what's being played on nights that I'm not there. What gets played on a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night at a club. So based on all of that information, you get to see what trends are emerging and what's being played across at venues all across India. And you get a sense of what the music map of the country is like. And it's based on that we kind of evaluate what our decisions are going to be, or how our decisions are going to be taken when we get down to choosing the artists we want to book for Supersonic.
Awesome. Amazing.
So data, both Gaurav and I, we love data, different kinds of data, but data is gold to us. And sometimes data is just having a conversation with a 20-year-old and saying, hey, what are you listening to?
Yeah, absolutely. So Gaurav, I would like you to talk a little bit about the 10,000 Lions sound system stage. I believe it is your brainchild. I hope I'm not wrong in that.
No, I don't think it's my brainchild. It's still the artist team brainchild. I just like being on that stage. I like that music. It's a very chilled out vibe, and I'm there. In terms of the bringing it there, that was not something that was my idea. It was the team, right? None of the ideas at the festival are actually mine. Everything is team driven.
Not true. Gaurav, Fashion Street is your idea, and from Fashion Street we evolved into Real Street this year. So the idea of creating experiences for consumers that go beyond music, Gaurav's had a very big role to play in that. The food experience, the lifestyle experience, a lot of that is Gaurav's work, and that has really added a very special layer to Vh1 Supersonic over the past few years.
And I think it's really important to give the festival goer a complete vibe and not just music, food and shopping. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, so 10,000 Lions is I think everybody's favorite stage, because whether you're into Pratik Kuhad or Diplo or Illenium or Divine, it's one of those stages that when you're walking by, you always go like, oh, this is a nice fun vibe, and you'll dance there for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then you'll carry on to wherever you were headed off to. So it's one of those stages that everybody goes and experiences throughout the festival at some point in time in the festival. And I think if you ask festival fans what their top 2 stages are at Vh1 Supersonic, most of them will definitely include 10,000 Lions as one of the top 2 stages, regardless of what
Yeah,
on the genre is
exactly.
their favorite genre in music.
Which is exactly why I wanted to know what makes it special and stand apart. So, Nikhil, I want to know your experience performing at Vh1 Supersonic. I mean, considering you are one of the key organizers, how is it like to perform at your own festival?
This was actually the first time that I played a set at Vh1 Supersonic.
Yeah,
Normally, I am Mr. Paranoid #1. I have my walkie-talkie attached to my ear, and I'm like switching between the channels, listening to what's happening on the bar channel, bar management channel, what's happening at the security channel, what's happening at the artist management channel. So I'm usually very paranoid about that, and I've never actually given myself a set to play at the festival. But this time, the artist team and me felt that maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea for me to do a back-to-back set with one of my closest friends, Browncoat, and it went off really well. For me, it was in a way liberating to take my walkie-talkie and headset off for an hour and a half and just kind of focus on playing music and enjoying myself. But then by the time we got to the end of that 90 minutes, I was back to being Mr. Paranoid #1 with the walkie-talkie back on. So yeah, it was an interesting experience in different ways, but I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, it would have been really different for sure. So I think this year you had a new concept, pre-gaming, to motivate like the super fam to come in early during the early hours of the festival. Could you elaborate a bit more about it and what was the whole idea behind this?
So actually, we have the pre-gaming or the happy hours. We've had it for all the years actually at the festival.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this year we just curated it better and we spoke about it a lot more.
Yeah.
One of the things was that we had tied up with Impresario, and they were doing an excellent spread of food and beverages. Right, they had brought all the Impresario brands and friends into the festival. They'd done some amazing cocktails. They had done some amazing food pairing, and they had some amazing choice of food, right? So we said, hey, the trend typically for the Gen Z kind of crowd is before they go somewhere, they pre-game, right? And we said, we're doing so much. You're paying for a whole day's worth or a whole 3 days worth of a festival, right? Why not come in and enjoy this, enjoy what all we have done for you, specifically curated for you at a price that you would pay anywhere else. So why bother pre-gaming? Come and pre-game with us. So that was the whole idea behind the concept of pre-gaming. And I think it kind of worked for us. Again, purely because of what Impresario did, the kind of food and beverage pairing and the kind of cocktail mixes that they came out with really encouraged the crowd to come in, right? And if you're spending the same amount of money inside or outside, you might as well be inside, right? You've already bought the ticket.
Absolutely.
Oh, and a production team had a large role to play in this as well, because one of the challenges is, for people to come out to the festival at 4 o'clock in the evening or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it is quite warm. Even in February, it is quite warm. We actually increased shade by 300% this year at the festival. So people could come in and you were under a sheltered spot while you had a drink or you had a beer or you were eating a sandwich or a burger or something that was, there was food curated especially for you. But increasing that shade was a big factor in encouraging people to come in early, because that is a challenge. Anywhere in India, it does get quite warm at 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So our production team did a really good job in providing that extra shade. And we saw the difference. People came in. It was a combination of what we were offering in terms of food, what we were offering in terms of better pricing on drinks, and of course, the shade that was provided at the festival.
Awesome. I think that's a brilliant idea, and I think it's going to get better and better year after year. So I would like to hear a bit more about the whole tech setup and the whole production aspect of the music festival?
What would you
Any
want to
of
know?
you can elaborate. The whole putting together the production aspect of the festival. You can just like give us an overview about it.
When somebody's standing in front of stage, what is their experience in terms of what height is the stage at? How big is the LED screen? When the lasers sweep up and down into the crowds, do they go into your eyes or do they not? There are a lot of these little touch points that we talk about in our production meetings. And then the production engineers, the lighting designers, the sound designers just get on with their jobs, right? So Gaurav and I have a vision that we sort of explain to the team, and then the team brings that vision to life. That's the way the process is generally followed. So we do have minimum requirements for stage based on what artist is performing on that stage and what's happening on that stage. We have some technical requirements, like this year, Inelia was doing 3D visuals. So we needed to get an LED that was seamless, that didn't have an edge. So it was like built like that, but without any edge on it. It was absolutely seamless. So we did have some technical requirements that we looked into. And then, of course, we get into usual stuff like, CO2 machines, fire machines, some fireworks. We can't do extensive fireworks because we're quite close to the airport over there in Pune. And all of those elements sort of come in. It's not very complicated, but it is very exacting. If it needs to happen this way, it needs to happen exactly that way. Especially when you're working with live bands, every band has a different requirement in terms of the riser for the drum kit, where the bass guitarist is going to be, if there's a keyboard. A lot of hip hop artists work with DJs, so there's a DJ platform that needs to be built that moves in and out of stage. And when you're moving so many elements in and off stage, more often than not, your wing space is as big as your stage space. So all of those elements need to be pre-planned and designed and operated in a way that's seamless, which means not only are we running the festival, there's a professional team that will come in to do stage management. There's a professional team that comes in to do artist liaisoning and management, which means once we sign a contract with an artist, we hand over to the artist team, to the liaisoning team, and then they look at visas, flights, hotels, airport pickup, rehearsal pickups, sound check pickup, taking them from the hotel for the gig, back to the gig. Everything is handled by a professional team. Nothing is left to chance, which is why every artist that comes to Vh1 Supersonic always goes back saying, hey man, what a great experience. Everybody's so professional. And the reason everybody's so professional is because we work with professionals who take a lot of pride in what they do and that bring our vision of Vh1 Supersonic to life. And I think that's the only way to operate.
And one thing that we did do, did spend some time on, right, with the sound professionals was, how do we align our stages to reduce the sound bleed across, multiple stages? Because there's a point of time when all the 5 stages are going hammer and tongs, right? And so how do you ensure that the person in front of a particular stage is not hearing music from the other stage? And I think this year we kind of, almost killed that model. We did a fantastic job with it. The sound engineers and the production team. I went to every stage at its peak time, and I could hear only that music. I couldn't hear any sound bleed. I don't know, Nikhil, what was your experience with that? But I think that was fantastically managed.
So, this was a challenge for us in 2020. And
absolutely,
it was one of the things that we got wrong in 2020. We had significantly higher sound bleed than what any of us were happy with. And I think that was a key area of focus for the sound team this year. And Gaurav's right. I actually forgot that point, that Gaurav was going around even during our day 0 checks to make sure that there was no sound bleed with the production people and the sound people from stage to stage. And there was, when the festival was completely empty, there was minimal sound bleed. But once the festival was up and running, there was almost none.
Wow, that's a big win, because it's a big challenge in almost all the festivals, right? That's amazing. What's in store for Vh1 Super Arcade this year? Or is it too early to?
We're both superstitious people. Till we have a contract signed, we don't say. But negotiations have been happening for a while. In fact, they happen all the year round. It's not just about, we'll start in January or we'll start in March. It's a constant process. Artist teams are getting in touch with us. We're in touch with artist teams. And, when the magic happens and the contract gets signed, then we'll be ready to talk about it.
Okay.
We will expand the franchise, right? You will see more of Supersonic and versions of it in the upcoming. That's what I can say.
Awesome. So what are the, one major key learning you both will take away from this year's festival?
Well, for me,
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Well, you go ahead, because mine's a funny one.
Okay.
I think both of you are ready to say this.
No, so I think for me, the key learning was, actually what emanated out of the pandemic, because we came back straight out of the pandemic and we went into planning a festival. And even though we started planning this almost a year in advance, the pandemic had not completely gone out, right? I think the
Yeah.
big learning was, trying to manage international artists, because each country had their own rules and regulations. India too had their own rules and regulations of movement, etc. So I think
Yeah.
handling that and making sure that the logistical processes, making sure that the artists are safe and they feel safe to come to the country to perform, so on and so forth. I think that was a big learning overall. Thanks to the pandemic, actually, for us.
Sneha, for me, the key learning
Nikhil?
hasn't changed from 2013. When I spoke about making the festival a safer space for everyone, the key learning from that is always put your fans first. Always first, second, last. It always is about the fans. And going from that, we've got to try and make the fan experience better each time. I think we've come a long way from where we were in 2013. I remember we built that first festival in Goa in 21 days, start to finish. We built a festival with 3 stages. We ran the festival for 5 days and we built it in 21 days. And we've come a long way from that. But the key learning is still this, that it's all about the fans. We've got to give them a better experience. And having said that, the learning is always, for me, is always, how do I get a colder drink into a fan's hand faster? I'm never satisfied with that. I want that drink to be colder, and I want that drink in that person's hand in under 60 seconds. And we're always trying to make those systems a little better to get drinks to you faster. We need to make our toilets cleaner. There's always a pain point at any festival around the world. They'll never be clean enough for me. There'll never be enough shade. Even though we increase shade by 300%, there's always something that nags at the back of my head and goes, this could have been better. That could have been better. But I think that's a good thing, because I think if we keep feeling that way about this festival, it means that we're very emotionally involved with it and connected to it. And we're always going to be striving and working harder to make it better each year.
That's amazing. That's really
cleaner
good.
Toilets and colder beer.
Yeah, I think both go hand in hand. So I think it's very important. Yeah. All right. So now I have just a few questions that I need you to answer in one word, both of you. A music festival you would love to go to that you haven't yet?
Coachella.
I'm not sure. It used to be Burning Man, but I'm not so sure about Burning Man right now. There's a bunch of sort of independent festivals that have emerged. Maybe Wilderness in the UK. I haven't been to Wilderness yet.
Okay. Your favorite festival snack?
My favorite festival snack. Gaurav, you want to go?
Yep.
Burgers.
Okay, so very few people know this about me. I almost never eat during a festival because I'm so stressed and there's so much work going on. So more often than not, it's a candy bar, like a chocolate candy bar, that'll put some sugar and energy into me, and I will go through the night. And then once the festival's done at 10 o'clock, then I'll eat something at that point in time. But during the festival, I very, very rarely eat anything.
Oh my God, how do you survive? Like, it's
on the candy bar.
Yeah, I know, I understand.
Just on that pure energy of the candy bar.
Sugar rush.
Try the burgers, Nikhil. They're good.
Gaurav, I'm not kidding, man. So many people have told me how good the burgers at Supersonic are. And not just this year, every year. I have never eaten one. Ever. All the years. Never eaten one. And just people like, hey,
oh my God,
burger truck coming back this year? I think we have a burger truck, right? Burgertron or something like that. They're like, is that burger truck coming back? I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know. Never eaten it.
You guys are making me hungry now. I want burger. Okay, your most memorable performance that you have seen so far?
At Supersonic?
Okay. Not necessarily, but yeah.
Okay, I would say Anne-Marie this year.
All right.
For me, it would be, I think, Eric Prydz. I worked to bring Eric Prydz to India for over 10 years. And it was the culmination of 10 years of work. And he's an artist that has a fear of flying. And for a very, very long time, we thought that India would always be impossible for Prydz. But we finally managed to get him to come down and play at Vh1 Supersonic. And It left a lot of people in tears. It meant a lot to many artists who traveled all across from India to come to VH1 Supersonic that year. So Prids was very special, not just musically, but also what he meant as an artist to our community of music fans in India.
Awesome. What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
I normally go to the gym.
Nice.
I like to take like 3 days off and not move from the couch. Because here's the funny thing, Sneha. You know that first year when you did a 5-day festival? After 3 days, I was fine. You know, your brain somewhat tunes into the fact that you've got to go this long. When we do a 3-day festival, at the end of 3 days, I'm finished. But if you're doing a 5-day festival, at the end of 3 days, I'm still fine. Your brain kind of deals with that. But when you get to the end of that, then you just go like, everything shuts down. Which is why I'm serious. When we get to the end of a really stressful festival run, 3 days on the couch, can't move.
But can you afford that? Like, can you do that?
You definitely can. I can't.
Because it's not just me. The whole team has their phone switched off. Nobody. The only team that is still working is the artist liaison team, because they still have to get the artists back to wherever they've come from. Everybody else is like, forget it. I'm not available. Phone's off, including Gaurav.
Okay, the last one. What is your most favorite part of the creative process?
For me, it's seeing it come together. I mean, the first thing that made me fall in love with being a festival promoter was standing on the side and seeing that magic happen between the artist and the audience. When that song is being played or when that tune is being dropped and you see that connection that happens in the ether between the artist and the audience, for me, that's pure love. So when you build a festival and you see that festival actually come to life, that's the motherlode. That's it.
Gaurav?
For me, I think, the design journey of what we're going to actually put out and, how that translates into the consumer experience. So, I don't know, I just love, design as this thing. I've designed my own house and stuff like that. So I like to see the creative design presentation and how it will affect the consumer experience, and then what it actually translates to.
Awesome.
So,
that's very
Gaurav,
interesting.
you and I are saying the same thing. I'm talking from a music point of view. You're talking from a consumer experience point of view. Same thing.
Which is why you guys are great partners too.
But I have to sound more businessy, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Nikhil, I hope we get to see you play next year and year after, year on year at VH1 Supersonic.
The good thing, if you don't get to see me play next year, sorry about that, is that it would only mean that there's a better artist that you get to experience. If you don't see someone, it means there's somebody better there. So, hey.
But you still,
awesome.
But you still have to come and experience Supersonic, right? And Nikhil will be there for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is actually, I didn't say anything, Sneha, but it is unspeakable that you haven't come as yet.
Yeah, I know. It's a shame, I would say.
Hello, can we cancel this interview and hold it till Sneha comes to the festival?
Oh my God.
We'll do the same interview next year.
No, you're giving me more reasons to want to come. So I think it's a good thing. But yeah, every year somebody from our team comes and they just make me feel more and more irritated that I haven't come. But yeah, I will be there next year.
Honestly, don't come for any one artist. Just come for the vibe.
It's
very easy for me to say, but you'll understand what I mean when you're actually there.
Absolutely. And also I like to mention, even, your marketing communication, like your designs, your social media, everything is so, so trendy, so nice, so vibrant. It absolutely appeals to the younger audience. And I just wanted to mention that as well. Your social media page, your communication is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Can I just say that Gaurav has had a big role to play in that, because in the past, it has tended to be a little haphazard on some occasion. We've gotten better and better each year, but Gaurav has started to put processes into place now, which means that things that need to be done are done at a particular time and they're done in a methodical manner. As much as I may enjoy being creative and vibrant and free and have this kind of background, if there wasn't somebody like Gaurav looking at the festival in the manner that he does, this festival would never get off the ground. So it's really important that some of the things that you see.
Nikhil keeps saying Gaurav, but what he means is the Supersonic team. right? So I just want to clarify.
You're very modest.
I was just saying that it's really important for a festival, for it to be successful, for some of these elements to be looked at by someone like Gaurav, who is very exacting in the manner in which he approaches the science of building a festival. So what you're seeing in terms of design and communication and social media, those processes have been put into place by Gaurav, and he demands that from the team, which is why they happen in that manner. So it's not just the creative part of it, it's Gaurav standing over somebody's head with a big stick and saying,
I'm definitely standing with the big stick, but again, I would like to reiterate, it's the Viacom Live team that does most of the work. I just do the stuff with the stick that Nikhil claims I do.
Look,
Yeah.
we may operate the ship, but the ship needs a captain, right?
Absolutely. You guys are so funny. Anyways, thank you so much for your time. It was super fun interview, and I will be there next year to experience it in person. And yeah, I just can't wait now. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the amazing responses